into my eyes. Feel their pain. Chill.
Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying-Model-Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest action figure video podcast. So take off your pants, crack a beer, and let's talk toys. Let's talk about the top 10 Ghost Rider stories of all time. We are currently celebrating the old Flaming Skull one's 50th anniversary. So you know what? If you want to get in on the party, you got to know the backstory. So I'm going to help you bone up on the character. That was a pun that I wasn't even planning to make, but I'm still going to take credit for it. Also, sounded a bit rude, so double trouble. Let's talk about the best stories framed around the spirit of vengeance. But before we do that, if you enjoy this video, then if you could like, share, and subscribe. You know what? Don't share. That's a hassle. But liking and subscribing, I'd really appreciate that. Don't feel you have to, though. That felt a little bit pushy. I'm rambling now. Let's get on with the list.
They call me Ghost Rider. I am summoned when innocent blood is shed, and you have shed much innocent blood.
Ghost Rider, Volume 1, Number 68, The Curse of Johnny Blaze.
The Curse of Johnny Blaze is a great retelling of the original Ghost Rider origin story from Marvel Spotlight number 5. I said that with a lot of confidence, but now that I'm overthinking it, I'm not sure if that was the number, but we'll find out when I edit this video. Regardless, this updates the origin and makes it very dark, but it was dark already, but now it's a little darker. But I really dig that because Ghost Rider is a horrific character. That's the whole point, and I always thought at first he was a little cheesy. When I read the comics in the 90s, I'd read the X-Men, Spider-Man, and then we have this Flaming Skull guy on a motorbike, and I'm like, I don't know about this. This is a bridge too far for my credibility. Now I've actually gone back and read a whole bunch of his stories. It's amazing what you can do when you educate yourself. I get a whole new understanding of the character, and I can officially say Ghost Rider, it's pretty badass. So this issue has a cool framing device where it's Johnny Blaze recounting his origin story to a priest in the confessional, and we get the telling of how he became Ghost Rider, and there's a few little substitutions as well. We swap out the devil and we insert Mephisto, who is totally the devil 2.0 but legally distinct. I think that's what we want to go for, and ever since then he's been the main antagonist of Ghost Rider. But this, for a slightly updated retelling of the origin, it's dark and creepy and got a real cool sort of EC Comics Tales from the Crypt kind of vibe to it. If you want to get the original origin story, but just made a little bit more contemporary, this is a great one to go for.
Ghost Rider, Volume 3, Issue 1, Life's Blood.
Now this is my 90s Ghost Rider, Danny Ketch. This is the dude I first saw with the motorbike, with the shield on the front, the leather jacket with the spikes, the chain going around. This is the dude who I first saw and went, oh, that looks a bit silly. And now I actually realize, no, younger Dave, you're silly. That was badass. So this is his origin story, which again is the classic kind of tale of trying to protect the innocent. So Danny Ketch is out for a walk with his sister in the cemetery, you know, as you do at night, and they get caught in the middle of a gang war. His sister gets mortally wounded, so he scoops her up into his arms and they take refuge in a junkyard. You'll never guess what's in that junkyard. No! Not the bones of Freddy Krueger, that's a different franchise, but a crossover between those two would be amazing. But there is a motorbike with a mysterious glowing gas tank cap to it, and he's like, I gotta go see what this is all about. But of course he touches it with the blood of his sister on his hands, and of course the innocent blood that was spilled summons forth the spirit of vengeance, and Danny Ketch becomes
Ghost Rider.
And that is a pretty awesome origin. And this story brings in some of the tropes and ideas that now are a staple part of Ghost Rider, mainly being the penance stare. So that's a great sort of grounding for what went forward with the powers and what we come to expect of the character. But this, for me, 90s Ghost Rider, great origin, definitely worth checking out.
Ghost Rider, Volume 3, Issue Number 28, The Rise of the Midnight Suns.
Now, in the mid-90s, we loved our crossovers, and this was a big, occult, dark kind of crossover, and I dug it. First of all, as soon as you bring together characters like Blade, Ghost Rider, Morbius, you're getting some cool vibes going on. Should have brought in Eric Draven as the Crow as well. He would have fit those guys like a glove. Wrong franchise though. But still, this little story here is where all these dark heroes have to team up to take on Lilith, who's like the new big bad of Ghost Rider. And man, for a 90s crossover, that sound alone might make you think, oof, yikes, a 90s multi-title Marvel crossover? I'm dubious. Nuh-uh. This is actually really well told with some cool dark artwork, but also it has a certain bright 90s flair to it as well. It's an interesting kind of mismatch that shouldn't work, but it does. And also it introduces us to the concept that Johnny Blaze, get my names right, is the brother of Danny Ketch, and that sort of brings the whole Ghost Rider mythos a little bit tighter knit, and it makes sense how the spirit of vengeance would kind of track from one to the other, adds a nice little element of lore. I really dig this one.
Your reign of terror ends now, beast. Ghost Rider: Road to Damnation.
Now this is a case of two great tastes that taste great together. We've got Ghost Rider and Garth Ennis. And normally I am very dubious when Garth Ennis is writing a Marvel story. Why? Because Garth Ennis hates Marvel heroes. So whenever he does write them, he normally portrays them as dumbasses, doofuses, and general incompetence. So I was thinking, okay, what are you going to do to the spirit of vengeance? Well, I'll tell you what he's going to do. He's going to write him as a badass, and that totally works. So in this story, we have the Ghost Rider who's kind of stuck in this loop trying to get out of hell. Basically, he spends eternity running away from demons on his bike, just about to make it out, gets dragged back, rinse and repeat. Until finally an angel comes to him and they're like, you know what? We got a little guy who's got a bounty on his head on Earth. There's this demon running amok. You go up there, you grab him, you bring him back, grant you a release from hell. And Ghost Rider's like, well, I'm not doing much else. I might as well get onto this. And no pun intended, but this served as something of a resurrection for Ghost Rider. The character had been kind of in limbo for a while. They'd killed off Danny Ketch rather unceremoniously, and then there wasn't much interest in the title, so this was a chance to put Johnny Blaze back in the hot seat and really start to build a new franchise around him. And Garth Ennis with his uber dark, very subversive but quite blackly comedic writing fit this story really, really well. And Clayton Crane with the artwork. I don't know nothing about art, but it looks like a combination of like painting and drawing and computer graphics that all like comes together to make something that's beautiful and disgusting and just so awesome. This definitely is not for everyone. There's a character called Buttview who just, you gotta see it for yourself. Nonetheless though, I highly recommend it if you got that Garth Ennis sense of humor. Not everyone does. Ghost Rider: Trail of Tears. One of the best things I think the Ghost Rider mythos ever did was kind of tying itself to the Old West and cowboys. Because I always figured when I first saw Ghost Rider, that's a bit silly. Why would the demonic forces like possess a motorbike? Like, why would Satan be like,
Motorbikes are cool, I need something motorbike themed.
And then they kind of expanded on the idea where, no, it's not just motorbikes, Dave, you dummy. It's a rider of any type, such as a cowboy, horses, and then we get the spirit of vengeance type stories set in the Old West. And the Old West, that's something Garth Ennis can sink his teeth into. We got another Garth Ennis story, and this time, rather than writing superheroes that he's never been a fan of, he gets to go cowboys. And Garth Ennis, he loves his cowboys. So this story really has the feeling of an Old West ghost story, but with that Marvel Ghost Rider kind of sheen to it, where you do get these demonic forces and whatnot. It's a cool mashup, again with beautiful artwork. That's what's so much fun about reading Ghost Rider comics, is seeing different artists' interpretations of these just fundamentally badass sights. Flaming skulls, ghost horses, all that kind of stuff. We all agree ghost horses are awesome, right? So I would highly recommend this as a great sort of flashback tale that really builds into the mythology and the lineage of what the Ghost Rider is.
Lord Demon, whichever you be gone.
Feel the torment of a billion extinguished souls. My task is complete.
Ghost Rider, Hellbent and Heaven-Bound. Now this story really fleshes out some of the motivations and origins of all the pain and suffering that poor old Johnny Blaze has had to go through, and it turns out to be this damn dang darn angel, Zadkiel. Now, like all the biggest and best Ghost Rider stories, this is a widescreen epic action blockbuster type of tale. We got wars in heaven, but then lots of craziness down on Earth as well. When you've got a story that involves nurses toting machine guns and crazy man-eating ghosts and demons and monsters, basically everything that is cool about Ghost Rider gets put into this story, and that makes it a lot of fun. And what's also a big bonus point is we get more of the dynamic between Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch. Danny, who kind of serves as an antagonist in this story. When you get two Ghost Riders, or at least Ghost Rider host type characters, butting heads and going up against one another, yeah, you're always going to be guaranteed a good time. This is a badass story. And one of the reasons the dynamic between Ketch and Blaze works so well is because it's written by Jason Aaron, who was just coming off of a very successful run on Wolverine. And this dude, he knows how to script personal interactions, back and forth, that kind of thing. So his talents are really put to great use here. Combine that with the much wider epic scale, this is a great sort of snapshot of just a badass example of what Ghost Rider stories can be. I put the picture over there, didn't I?
It's the Ghost Rider!
Abomination, I have come for you. Ghost Rider, fear itself.
This story asks the question, what happens when the Ghost Rider, in this instance Johnny Blaze, grows tired of being the spirit of vengeance? I mean, it must get old eventually. Fortunately for Johnny Blaze, this dude called Adam shows up and he offers a solution to his problem. However, you know these things ain't ever going to be like they seem. So Blaze, assuming that he can take Adam up on his word, little bit naive there, dude, allows the spirit of vengeance to be removed from him and given to a new host. In this instance, a character called Alejandra Jones. And as you can imagine, things go south pretty damn fast. And what's kind of cool is that Alejandra Jones is Marvel's first female Ghost Rider, so we get to see a new take on the character in that regard. But Alejandra is not as cute and cuddly as Johnny Blaze is as the spirit of vengeance, so she turns things up to 11, and it gets pretty dark, pretty vengeful, pretty crazy, and it makes for a really good comic book.
There was someone there, but it wasn't a good Samaritan. It was the devil.
All new Ghost Rider, Engines of Vengeance. Now this is a whole new fresh take on Ghost Rider, and I gotta admit, when I first saw the art and the concepts, I was like, this is kinda silly. But I enjoy being proved wrong, and believe me, that happens a lot. And in this instance, Robbie Reyes became one of the coolest versions of Ghost Rider that I've seen. I don't want to speak for everyone else, but now the muscle car, that's wicked. The Dodge Charger, if it is a Dodge Charger, I'm not a car guy. Regardless, I buy into it now. Especially now that I have a better understanding of the Ghost Rider lineage, where it is riders from horses to woolly mammoths to Dodge Chargers. I dig it, it's badass, and Robbie Reyes is a very different take on the character. Living and growing up in East Los Angeles, he's one of these great sort of archetypes where he's trying to live a good, decent life while being dragged down by all these criminal and nefarious elements around him. And of course, in this story, he does run afoul of the wrong people. He gets murdered, but he is resurrected not by the spirit of vengeance. So Robbie is actually possessed by the spirit of his deceased uncle. So he's not the spirit of vengeance as such, but he is still the Ghost Rider. It's an interesting take and a new kind of concept to go with, and honestly, I dig it. This is way cooler than I ever gave it credit for being originally. Definitely worthy of your attention if you've passed it by so far.
Welcome to the Hotel Hell. Check-in time is now, check-out time is never.
Damnation, Johnny Blaze. What do you do when you get tired of being the ruler of hell? Open a hotel. At least that's what Mephisto did.
And the sheets are made of fire.
So while being your typical action blockbuster awesomeness with monsters and demons and all sorts of stuff, this is actually a very cool kind of examination of Johnny Blaze and the spirit of vengeance, how they interact, why they are bonded together, whether or not they should be separate, and you really want to see how it's going to play out and ultimately how they're going to reach kind of an understanding. You can tell reading this that the writer, Christopher Sabella, did a lot of research into the character and the backstory and the history of Ghost Rider so that he could really pour all of that knowledge into examining the dynamics between the spirit of vengeance and Johnny Blaze. And ultimately, in the end, once you get to the final page of this story, not only has it been rollicking good time for everyone, but you as the reader have a much better idea as to what motivates and drives the spirit of vengeance and Johnny Blaze to become Ghost Rider. Cosmic Ghost Rider destroys Marvel history. Now, this is a story that's absolutely bonkers, completely off the map, but it's so much fun. And also, this is a totally different kind of take on the Ghost Rider. This isn't Johnny Blaze, this ain't Danny Ketch, this is Frank Castle. So in this story, in this timeline, which has kind of been incorporated into the 616 and then not, you know how multiverses work. The answer is, we don't know how multiverses work, so you can do whatever you want. So Frank Castle was the Punisher, he gets killed, becomes the Spirit of Vengeance, is resurrected as the Ghost Rider, then he gets turned into the Herald of Galactus, we get the Cosmic Ghost Rider, who's basically Ghost Rider, Deadpool, and the Punisher all kind of molded into one. And he makes for a very entertaining character in this story, which is kind of a what-if story, but then again I think it is canon, but it happens in different realities, so I'm going cross-eyed just trying to explain it. The Cosmic Ghost Rider goes back in time to try and fix and right so many wrongs, like a bit of a demonic Sam Beckett kind of thing. But of course, being this completely bonkers character, he totally screws the pooch, but to hilarious effect. So you see Cosmic Ghost Rider going back through all these integral moments in Marvel history, absolutely ruining everything. And you see these different stories play out in these completely ridiculous ways. And honestly, it's just fun. And Ghost Rider, when you're dealing with such heavy topics as vengeance, damnation, heaven and hell, it's sometimes kind of cute just to get a completely off-the-wall story. And that's what this is, so quite frankly, it's a good time. And that does it for the top 10 best Ghost Rider stories. And honestly, there are so many Ghost Rider stories to choose from. You could make a top 100 stories and completely change the order and it would still be valid, because there is some gold over the last 50 years. And that's often a problem I find with Marvel Unlimited, is that it's so good and so comprehensive, you're like, it's a spoil of riches. I don't know where to begin. Well, there you go. That's 10 stories you can start with. So guys, what are your favorite Ghost Rider stories? Comment below, let me know. And as I always say, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then you know what you gotta do.
What you gonna do?
You gotta join the 6-1 clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. So gang, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to my Patreon supporters, who you can see scrolling along the screen right now. And if you want to go join the Patreon, then you can do over at patreon.com. Throw a couple of bucks my way and you can enjoy all the exclusive videos, and you can have access to the Model Behavior Discord. Yeah, I'm dipping my toe back into Discord servers. Oh, this is going to be a wild ride. So gang, thanks very much for watching, and until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Coffee. Big time coffee.